Yo, what's up guys, it's Talon. Today we're going to be watching one of my jungle games, trying to kind of figure out what went wrong in this game, how to improve it, that type of thing. Starting off with draft, we end up drafting Warwick because we needed some AP on our team, as well as the fact that he's just generally one of my more played junglers, and he's pretty fine into the enemy comp. He's not the best into Jax, but he's fine into the other champions, so we end up picking Warwick. And then when it comes to pathing of this early game, because you always kind of want to think about your pathing, for me, there's kind of a couple different options. I can path towards Fiora Jax because it's more likely for some type of fight to occur, or I could path towards Xayah Emilio because they'll scale pretty well and I want to protect them. In my mind, it makes a lot more sense to path towards the Fiora Jax in this type of game because it's more likely that some type of fight happens and that I can actually be there to protect someone. Whereas Pyke is obviously really hard to gank. Jinx has her traps, and again, Pyke can kind of peel and stun. It's going to be pretty hard for me to actually get a gank off to work. So I generally wouldn't path towards that type of lane. And in this game, we're also going to be kind of trying to figure out ways to win games that go wrong in a similar way. So a lot of my games recently that I do lose on jungle have kind of gone wrong with a really like kind of an early lane kind of getting stomped quite hard, leading to the game just being quite difficult. And kind of just trying to see like what exactly we could do differently in these types of games. Obviously, like, you know, some games more things go wrong than others, but we'll kind of just look through the game and sort of see at this point. So again, we're just going to go through our early pathing. Obviously, I'm just going to normally I don't tell people to do anything more than a full clear or at least 5 camps into scuttle, but this unique game I actually decided to go for a level 3 gank, and there's very like specific reasons why I do it in this game. So if we look at the Kayle, or if we look at the wave right here, we have a very big wave built up by Swain, which means that Kayle's currently level 2 and Swain's level 3, and Swain has a big health lead. So Kayle's very weak, and I can simply stand pretty much in this lane and deny Kayle from walking up to get farm. And then because their jungler is a Rengar, he does not have very good ganking level 3, and so he either has to stop farming to come protect the Kayle from a turret dive, or he just kind of gets screwed over and can't really do much. The Kayle that is, and so we kind of see how Kayle ends up trying to walk up, and we pretty much just zone them. They have to flash right away, and we're just able to turret dive them like this. And I believe we get the first or the kill. Our duo lane got first blooded, but so this is kind of one of the unique situations where we actually wanted to look for a really early gank, which again is something I really don't recommend doing very often. It just like has to be perfect, like everything has to align. And then because of that, now we go back to clearing obviously our red side at this point. And then we can look for another gank, but pretty unlikely we're going to find much, so we're just going to go to our blue side. And so our duo lane did get double killed already pretty early on in this game. Not a whole lot we obviously could do to stop them that early getting double killed. You know, it is what it is. But at this point, I'm kind of just hovering Swain to make sure, again, that he doesn't die. But I don't really see any issues so far with this game, because again, we're mostly watching to try to figure out what we could have done differently. I like my pathing here because it's something where, again, I very rarely would actually do this, but in this game it just made sense. And it led to a decent early game in general. And the kind of thing that like sometimes I feel like players will struggle with when they'll have laners doing really bad, like here, my duo lane I think are 0-4 at this point. Maybe they're 0-3, but I think they're 0-4. Oh yeah, and then I go here and I end up dying. So I thought I'd be able to catch him, but I just couldn't, and inted and died here. Not a whole lot I would like learn from this. Obviously I just shouldn't have jumped on him here. The main goal obviously just catch Pyke and see if we can get a one shot on him, but I was just like half an inch off of being able to auto attack him. Those types of mistakes obviously are mistakes that are bad and lead to the game being really difficult, but when it comes to learning from them, there's not much to learn because it's pretty much just like you clicked a button wrong or missed a skill shot or these types of things. But at this point, the early game is going very poorly, and so I mostly just want to play around someone who's at least somewhat strong, which in this case is Fiora. And so because of that, obviously I'm going to this side of the map. Pyke ends up rotating, so we end up trying to fight here. And I would say this is probably my first big mistake here. It's just me ulting in so early. Like the reason I wanted to ult in really early was because of the fact that my Swain went forward and I kind of was trying to like protect him. But I think it would have made a lot more sense for me to look to ult right onto Pyke right away instead of, or like go onto Pyke once my Swain went on him rather than what I did here, which kind of didn't work out super well. just because I went in a bit too deep, like without the team, which I would say is kind of the main issue. Then if we actually look at it, when we saw Pyke rotating, I actually think it might have made sense to try to just get this Jinx here. Like, if now that I think about it, because the Jinx is rather strong, he's making our game really hard. And as soon as we saw Pyke rotating, like I think I see Pyke rotating right here, it actually could have made a lot of sense to just not fight at all anyways, because I know like we're gonna lose the 4v4 probably. And so when I'm looking at the decision, now that I think about it, honestly, I think I should just go topside here. Like if I just go topside, I can at least dive, I can get some type of advantage. Because again, what you want to do when you're behind in a game that's really hard, and again, obviously this game is very hard, you know, laners are not doing well. You generally would probably want to play around just like creating a numbers advantage somewhere. That's something I tell people very often. And so yeah, I think it actually could have made a lot of sense to just go for the Swain or go for the Jinx on topside here. And then if she over aggress, you know, we'd be able to kill her. But instead now she gets another kill, she's on a rampage, and here didn't really have much to do. So I was trying to see if I could, you know, zone them, but honestly it was pretty much just a waste of time. I go back to farming, obviously we give up Dragon. Oh yeah, and then at this situation, Rengar and Pyke just pop up out of the bush. I wouldn't say there's a whole lot I can do to prevent something like this either. Probably wouldn't expect them to be in the bush there, but we get one shot. And at this point, the game obviously is like very, very kind of snowballed. And so I would say the main thing kind of from this game that I can learn from so far is just playing on the opposite side in that one situation where the support ended up rotating. Because normally I would play towards the stronger lane, which is what I was doing, right? And pathing towards Fiora instead of going towards my duo lane who were behind a couple thousand gold in 5 minutes. But I could have, when I saw them rotate, because sometimes this does happen where the bot lane are so strong they rotate right away, I could have then used that opportunity to go to top side to at least stop the bleeding a little bit. But if I look at it, this is really the only kind of major issue I see from this game. Obviously, we'll see if there's kind of anything else as we skip through the rest here. I mean, obviously, again, the ult is a bit over aggressive, trying to really force to just catch someone because we're kind of in a desperate situation. If we look at it in this situation, though, didn't really need to go here. I could have used this as a distraction to just go topside and get this wave. So in this situation, I also should have gone topside. So I would say in some of these games, I mean, again, at this point, very hard to win this game regardless with what was going on, even if we made like perfect decisions just because of how far our team is down. But I would say there were a couple times where I could still go on the opposite side more frequently, and that's kind of the main thing to keep in mind. Here we end up catching out Jinx and Jax because they kind of overextend. And again, we're just skipping through because we're mostly just watching this for improvement, like I said. And we end up getting the Kale, and then I believe we end up dying. I'm not actually sure 100% what ends up happening. But I would just say there's way too much fighting going on for how behind we are. Is kind of the main thing I see here. And that's a pretty common issue that I see with people, is kind of just like a lot of fighting. Like you see here again, we just create another random fight with the Pyke, and then we just keep going in, and just like pretty useless to be fighting this much. Again, like obviously a lot of times team will fight anyways, and so it's a little hard. And in this case, like the fight actually works out pretty well. You're gonna see at the end, but it's just like it's pretty random, you know. And obviously, if you're fighting a bunch and you're already down 10k gold, most likely you're going to lose a majority of those fights, which is why you want to force a lot more fights as someone who's ahead. And so I think with Warwick, he's a champion who's very focused on fighting. He's not really a farming champion. But when I'm playing him in a game like this, I kind of get drawn in too much to fighting, to the point that it's just kind of, you know, leading to a bunch of random fights that we kind of lose. And again, I mean, I think this game was like most likely going to be a loss anyways with the early game. I would say it was rather unlikely that we end up just finding a way to win regardless. And then again, we just get like one shot by the Rengar Pyke popping up on our screen. So that's obviously not the most counterable thing. I mean, I could have reacted slightly quicker. That'd really be the only thing I would say. But again, not a whole lot to learn from that. So I would just say, you know, again, the main thing I take away from this game is to not try to force so many fights, and then also that play around the Dragon, or around the Herald, where the enemy rotated, where I could have just gone back towards topside to dive the Jinx. And this is kind of like the value you can take away from your games, is just learning one or two things from a game, trying to figure, like, you know, learn that thing, and then you improve on that the next couple of days. So again, very short video in this one. Just wanted to go over that main kind of detail and review one of my games, kind of see what was going wrong. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, I do coaching for $25 an hour. Just DM me on Discord, Talon1169, or do link in the description to my Discord server, and I'll see you guys in the next video.